The lightsabers clashed one final time. Obi-Wan Kenobi stood on higher ground, his voice breaking as he shouted the words that would haunt him forever. "I have the high ground, Anakin. Don't try it." But Anakin Skywalker, no, Darth Vader now didn't listen. He leapt. His crimson blade swung upward with terrifying speed. This time, Obi-Wan's strike wasn't clean. The blade grazed Anakin's shoulder and chest, searing flesh and burning deep. He crashed onto the volcanic rock, gasping, smoke rising from his wounds. But he didn't roll toward the lava. He didn't lose his limbs. The Force itself seemed to pull him back, as if the dark side refused to let its chosen vessel be destroyed. Obi-Wan stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. He couldn't finish it. He couldn't kill his brother. "I'm sorry, Anakin," he whispered and turned away. Moments later, Palpatine's shuttle descended through the ash-filled sky. The Emperor stepped onto the blackened shore and saw his apprentice lying there, burned, bloodied, but intact. His eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Good," Palpatine hissed. "Very good." Anakin's yellow eyes snapped open. Pain radiated through every nerve, but his arms responded. His legs moved. He pushed himself up, trembling with rage and agony, and looked down at his body. Scarred, damaged, but whole. "Master," Anakin rasped. "You have survived what would have destroyed any other," Palpatine said, circling him slowly. "The dark side has preserved you, Lord Vader. You are stronger than I ever imagined." Vader's fist clenched. The pain fueled him. The hatred burned hotter than the lava around them. He didn't need a suit, didn't need machines to breathe. He was still the chosen one, but now he belonged to the darkness. "What is your command?" Vader asked, his voice cold and sharp. Palpatine smiled, a serpent's grin. "Rise, my apprentice. The Jedi are scattered. The Republic is dead. Now we hunt." Vader stood, fully upright, power flooding back in his limbs. And the galaxy would soon learn to fear a Sith Lord who had never been broken. Coruscant had never felt darker. From the highest spire of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Palpatine gazed out over the sprawling city world. His empire was rising. The Senate was a puppet. The Jedi were nearly extinct. And at his side stood the most powerful Sith apprentice in 1,000 years. Darth Vader, not the broken cyborg of another fate, but a warrior in his prime. His body bore scars from Mustafar, jagged lines across his chest and arms, a reminder of his fall, but he moved with the speed and grace of the Jedi he once was. His presence in the Force was a storm, wild and overwhelming. Palpatine watched him carefully. "Lord Vader," the Emperor said, his voice like silk over steel. "The Jedi Master Quinlan Vos has been sighted in the Outer Rim. He is gathering survivors." Vader's jaw tightened. His hatred for the Jedi was absolute. "I will find him," Vader said, "and I will end him. See that you do." Palpatine's yellow eyes gleamed. "Leave no witnesses. No hope." Vader bowed and left without another word. Within days, Quinlan Vos was dead. Vader had tracked him to a hidden rebel cell on Kashyyyk, cut through his defenses, and executed him in front of a dozen Wookiee freedom fighters. The survivors fled into the forests, but Vader hunted them one by one. No mercy, no hosetashin. Word spread quickly across the galaxy. The Empire's enforcer wasn't a crippled machine. He was a living nightmare. Vader returned to Coruscant victorious. Palpatine congratulated him, but behind the praise, the Emperor's mind was calculating. Vader's power was growing. His confidence, his skill. In another year, perhaps two, he might become a threat. "You have done well, my friend," Palpatine said, testing the word. "The Jedi will remember your name with terror." Vader didn't respond. He simply stared out at the city below, his thoughts unreadable. But deep in the Force, Palpatine felt it, a flicker of something he hadn't expected. Ambition. And for the first time since Mustafar, the Emperor wondered if he had made a mistake. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant was a tomb, but scattered across the galaxy, survivors still clung to life. Masters who had fled during Order 66. Padawans hidden by sympathetic families. Knights who had gone into deep cover, hoping the storm would pass. Darth Vader made sure it never would. On Nar Shaddaa, Jedi Master Jocasta Nu attempted to recover holocrons from a black market dealer. Vader ambushed her in a grimy cantina, his crimson blade igniting before she could even draw her lightsaber. She fell without a word. On Felucia, Aayla Secura's former Padawan, Ekria, tried to lead a group of refugees to safety. Vader tracked her through the Fumble Forest for 3 days, then struck at dawn. The refugees scattered. Ekria stood her ground. She lasted 14 seconds. On Ilum, a small group of Jedi tried to destroy the ancient Kyber crystal caves to keep them from Imperial hands. Vader arrived with a battalion of stormtroopers. He didn't need them. He walked into the frozen temple alone and emerged an hour later, his lightsaber dripping with melted ice and blood. The Inquisitors reported back to Palpatine with growing unease. Vader was hunting faster than they could track. He needed no support, no backup. He was a one-man extinction event. Lord Vader, one Inquisitor dared to ask, "How do you find them so quickly?" Vader turned slowly, his yellow eyes burning. "I feel them," he said. "Their fear, their hope. It calls to me through the Force. And I answer." The Inquisitor stepped back, chilled. Palpatine, watching from Coruscant, allowed himself a rare smile. His weapon was performing beyond expectations. But deep down, a seed of concern began to grow. Vader wasn't just following orders anymore. He was enjoying the hunt, perfecting it, becoming something more than a servant. On Dagobah, Yoda sat in his small hut, eyes closed, feeling the ripples in the Force. Every death, every scream, too strong. He has become, Yoda whispered. "Stop him, we cannot." And across the stars, Vader sensed something, a disturbance. A presence he hadn't felt in years. Obi-Wan Kenobi was still alive. The Battle of Ryloth was supposed to be a turning point. Rebel forces, led by Cham Syndulla, launched a coordinated strike against an Imperial garrison. They had the element of surprise. Superior numbers. A solid plan. Then Darth Vader arrived. His Star Destroyer dropped out of hyperspace, and within minutes, the tide turned. Vader descended to the surface alone. No escort, no backup. He walked into the center of the battlefield. Crimson lightsaber ignited, and the rebels opened fire. Blaster bolts froze in midair. Cham watched in horror as dozens of shots hovered around Vader like a cage of red light. Then, with a flick of his wrist, Vader sent them all flying back. Rebel soldiers screamed as their own fire tore through them. "Fall back!" Cham shouted, but Vader raised his hand. The ground trembled. A rebel gunship lifting off suddenly jerked backward, engines screaming, and slammed into the dirt. Vader crushed it with the Force, metal shrieking, fuel igniting in a brilliant explosion. The rebels scattered. Vader pursued, moving faster than any human should. He leapt 30 meters in a single bound, landed in the middle of a fleeing squad, and cut them down in seconds. His power wasn't just raw, it was refined. Surgical. Cham barely escaped. Back on the rebel command ship, he delivered his report to Mon Mothma with shaking hands. "We can't fight him," Cham said. "Not like this. He's something else." Mon Mothma's face was grim. "Then we avoid him. We strike where he isn't." But that was the problem. Vader seemed to be everywhere. Every major rebel operation ended the same way. Vader arrived, and hope died. On Coruscant, Palpatine listened to the reports with satisfaction. But privately, he felt the tremor in the Force. Vader's power was growing beyond even his expectations. The apprentice was approaching the master's level. And one day soon, Palpatine knew Vader would test him. On Tatooine, an old hermit named Ben Kenobi stood in the desert, staring up at the twin suns. "He's coming," Obi-Wan whispered. And deep in the Force, Vader felt it too. Emperor Palpatine sat alone in his throne room, fingers steepled, eyes closed. He reached out through the Force, searching, probing. And there, like a black star on the edge of his perception, was Vader. Burning, growing, threatening. Palpatine's eyes snapped open. "Summon Lord Vader," he commanded. When Vader entered, his presence filled the room like a storm front. He knelt, but Palpatine noticed the hesitation, barely a fraction of a second, but it was there. "My master," Vader said. "Rise." Palpatine studied him carefully. "I have a task for you. A rebel fleet is massing near Fondor. Destroy it. It will be done. Alone." Palpatine added, his voice sharp. "No fleet support. No reinforcements." Vader's yellow eyes met his. For a moment, neither spoke. "As you wish," Vader finally said. He left without another word. Palpatine watched him go, his mind racing. The task was a test. No Sith Lord, no matter how powerful, could destroy an entire fleet alone. If Vader succeeded, it would confirm Palpatine's worst fear. If he failed, well, failure had its uses too. But Vader didn't fail. He arrived at Fondor in a single fighter, flew into the heart of the rebel formation, and tore through their capital ships with the Force. Viewports shattered. Hyperdrives detonated. Entire frigates crumpled like paper as Vader ripped them apart from within. The rebels fled in terror, and Vader returned to Coruscant victorious. Palpatine congratulated him publicly. Privately, he was furious. "You grow strong, my apprentice," Palpatine said later, alone in the throne room. "I serve the Empire," Vader replied evenly. "Do you?" Palpatine's voice was a knife. But do you serve yourself?" Vader didn't answer. He simply stared at the Emperor, unblinking. The silence stretched. Finally, Palpatine waved him away. "Go. We will speak again." Vader bowed and left. But as he walked through the Imperial Palace, his thoughts were far from submission. He had felt Palpatine's fear, tasted it in the Force. The Emperor was afraid of him. And Vader realized something crucial. If Palpatine feared him, then Palpatine could be replaced. Luke Skywalker ignited his father's lightsaber. The blue blade hummed to life aboard the Death Star, and across from him, Darth Vader stood motionless. No labored breathing, no mechanical hiss, just a man in black robes, yellow eyes glowing, radiating power. "Obi-Wan has taught you well," Vader said, his voice cold and clear. Luke's hands trembled. "You kill my father." "No." Vader stepped forward, and the temperature seemed to drop. "I am your father." Luke's world shattered. "No, that's not true. That's impossible." "Search your feelings, Luke. You know it to be true." Luke stumbled backward, shaking his head. The Force screamed around him, confirming what his heart refused to believe. The monster standing before him, the man who had slaughtered Jedi, crushed rebellions, terrorized the galaxy, was Anakin Skywalker. "Join me," Vader said, extending a hand. "Together, we can overthrow the Emperor, rule the galaxy as father and son. It is your destiny." Luke stared at the outstretched hand. Part of him, some deep, terrible part, felt the pull. The temptation. His father was alive, powerful, offering him everything. But then he remembered Ben, Leia, Han, the rebellion. "I'll never join you," Luke said, raising his lightsaber. Vader's expression didn't change, but disappointment flickered in the Force. "Then you will die." Vader moved. It was faster than anything Luke had ever seen. One moment Vader was across the room. The next, their blades clashed, the impact nearly tearing the lightsaber from Luke's hands. Vader pressed the attack, his strikes precise, brutal, relentless. Luke blocked desperately, retreating, barely keeping up. "You are strong," Vader said, attacking again. "But untrained. Raw." Luke tried to counter, but Vader disarmed him with a flick of his wrist. The lightsaber flew across the room. Luke fell to his knees, helpless. Vader stood over him, crimson blade at his throat. "I will give you one more chance, my son. Join me, or watch your friends die." Luke looked up, tears in his eyes. "Never." Vader hesitated, and in that moment, something shifted. The Emperor's laughter echoed through the chamber. "Good, good." Vader stood on the bridge of his Star Destroyer, staring into the void of space. Luke had escaped. The Death Star was destroyed, and Palpatine had revealed his hand. He wanted Luke dead or broken, not converted. The Emperor saw Luke as a threat, not an asset. But Vader saw something else. He saw potential. For years, Vader had served without question, hunted the Jedi, crushed the rebels, built the Empire's war machine. But now, standing at full strength, he realized the truth Palpatine had always feared. He didn't need the Emperor anymore. Lord Vader, an officer said cautiously, "The Emperor is waiting for your report." "Let him wait," Vader replied. The officer paled, but said nothing. Vader reached out through the Force, feeling the threads of power across the galaxy. The Imperial hierarchy, the fleet, the Inquisitors, so many pieces on the board. And Palpatine, sitting at the center, believing himself untouchable. But empires fall. Mustafar. Vader began a plan. He met secretly with key Imperial officers, those ambitious enough to see opportunity in chaos. He planted seeds of doubt about Palpatine's leadership. He manipulated troop movements, ensuring his most loyal forces were positioned strategically. And most importantly, he left Luke alive. His son would be the key. Palpatine, of course, sensed the shift. "You plot against me," the Emperor hissed during their next meeting, his yellow eyes blazing. Vader didn't deny it. "You grow old, Master. Weak. The Empire needs a stronger hand." Palpatine laughed, a chilling sound. "You think yourself my equal? Fool. I have foreseen your betrayal, and I have prepared." "Then let us see," Vader said, his hand resting on his lightsaber, "who is truly the stronger." The air crackled with dark side energy. The throne room itself seemed to tremble. Both Sith Lords stared at each other, power radiating from their forms, waiting for the other to strike. But neither moved. Not yet. "Soon," Palpatine whispered. "Soon, we will end this, and one of us will rule alone." Vader turned and left, his mind racing. The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen. A war between Sith Lords at full power. The Imperial Palace burned. Vader and Palpatine's duel had raged for hours, tearing through chamber after chamber. Lightning arced against lightsaber. Force waves shattered walls. The Emperor's royal guards lay dead, caught in the crossfire of gods. "You were my greatest creation," Palpatine screamed, unleashing a storm of Force lightning. Vader caught it with his bare hands, absorbing the energy, his face twisted in pain and fury. "I was never yours." He threw the lightning back. Palpatine staggered, surprised. For the first time in decades, the Emperor felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Vader pressed forward, lightsaber blazing. "You made me a weapon. Now I will unmake you." Their blades clashed, crimson against crimson, the dark side roaring around them. But Palpatine was older, slower, and Vader was whole. The Emperor fell to one knee, gasping. "Finish it," Palpatine hissed. "Strike me down. Take your place as master." Vader raised his lightsaber. "Father, stop." Luke Skywalker stood in the doorway, his lightsaber ignited, his face desperate. "Father Frosh." "Luke." Vader's voice softened just slightly. "Stay out of this. I won't let you become him," Luke said, stepping forward. "I won't let the dark side win." Palpatine laughed weakly. "Foolish boy. It is already won." Luke looked between them, his father trembling with rage and power, and the Emperor, broken but still dangerous. "There's still good in you," Luke said, staring at Vader. "I can feel it." Vader's hand trembled. For a moment, the yellow in his eyes flickered. Palpatine seized the moment. "Kill him, Vader. Kill your son, and your training will be complete." Vader looked at Luke, then at Palpatine, then at his own hand, scarred but strong. He made his choice. Vader's lightsaber plunged downward, not into Luke, but into Palpatine's chest. The Emperor screamed, Force lightning exploding outward in a final, desperate burst. Vader held firm, driving the blade deeper, until the light faded from Palpatine's eyes. Silence. Vader turned to Luke, his face unreadable. "It's over," Vader said quietly. But Luke knew the truth. The hardest choice was still to come.